Hello, I'm Amisila Pamela Ngubane, and this is the Entity Dynamics podcast. Entity Dynamics is a culture development consultancy where we believe that culture creates behavior and behavior creates reality. The title of this video is A Culture of Taking Ourselves Seriously. So, the reason why I came up with this video is because we, as South Africans, and as Black South Africans, let me just put it bluntly like that, we don't take ourselves seriously. And why I say this is also in line with what I said about the elites in our societies who don't see it necessary to modernize cultural institutions so that they are functional and useful and helpful to the societies that they lead in the modern world, in the modern culture that we live in, this globalized system that we live in, this economic system based on credit and interest and debt, right? They're not interested in the well-being of the general population. Because if they were, they would have made it a serious business to bring the Lobola institution into the modern world so that it becomes an enabler of marriage, an enabler of social cohesion, instead of what it has become, something which becomes a burden and which becomes a source of strife in society and within families. Okay. Another place where we have seen our elites not take our society seriously and not take their role seriously, is in modernizing African languages so that they can be vehicles of scientific inquiry and also of economic practice, economic production. And then the other one is in teaching the society English, which is the lingua franca of the world. We can't escape that. Teaching them English so that they can participate in the education system, in the tertiary education system, and in the economy of this country and in the world economy. So, it's been since like 2002, okay, that I've been thinking about this issue of language. Because when I was at UCT, 2002, I was in my third year at UCT, I noticed that Black kids coming from the rural areas, their command of English was non-existent. Okay, pretty much. It was like rudimentary at best. Let's be honest with ourselves. When we're talking about being in a tertiary institution, okay, there you're talking academic English. It's not textbook from high school English. It's academic English, right? So why, tell me why, did these kids not receive adequate instruction in English so that when they got to tertiary institutions like the University of Cape Town, they were able to function to the best of their ability? Why? Why were they not equipped with this vital tool, the command of the English language, which would allow them to thrive? Smart kids, very intelligent kids. The fact that they got into UCT to study things like engineering and whatever means they're extremely intelligent. Okay, but now they don't know how to speak the language. Then you'll get maybe a Taiwanese kid coming. Maybe they don't also know how to speak English, but they're equipped with translation devices that help them to translate the language of English into their language so that they can function. There's no translation device that was being created for Black kids who grew up speaking isiXhosa and isiZulu, Sepedi, Tswana, right? Despite the fact that in the early 1990s, the government of South Africa acknowledged that they had to modernize African languages so that they could become languages through which Black people in South Africa could participate in the economy and participate in industrial research and scientific research. To today, 2025, that's not happening. It hasn't happened. Okay. So this is us as Black people not taking ourselves seriously. allowing ourselves to be led by elitists who claim to be leaders into a situation where the majority of Black people remain in poverty and the inequalities of society increase. Okay, where they're happy for their kids to get the good education and the good opportunities, but they don't mind that the kids of the ordinary masses don't have the opportunity to thrive on something as basic as the command of the English language. The English language is the lingua franca of the world. You can't escape it. So what are you doing? Now, there's an example of a culture that took itself and does take itself extremely seriously to this day, a society, a civilization, and this is the Japanese people. In the 1800s, they actually swapped emperors. Emperor Edo gave way to Emperor Meiji because Emperor Edo agreed that with Emperor Meiji, essentially, just basically speaking, that the modernization drive was required. The modernization drive that Emperor Meiji was proposing was required if the Japanese society was going to be able to contend with and adapt to the westernizing world and the globalizing world, which was happening. It was happening, right? So Emperor Edo had closed Japan off to the west completely. But then they saw that it's like a tsunami. What are you going to do? Are you going to let it drown you? Or are you going to create a vessel that can withstand the tsunami, right? So they decided they're going to modernize Japan. And the way they did it, they taught the princes of Japan, like the sons of the kings of the principalities of Japan, which were under the rule of the emperor, English, sent them out to all the capitals of the Western world to learn everything about the West, all the way to PhD level. From science to art to architecture to whatever, everything, okay? Then they came back to Japan and translated that information into Japanese and taught their people. We've had 30 years in this country, millions, if not billions of dollars poured into education in this country. We could have done the same thing by now. 30 years is 2 generations. It takes 1 generation to instill a culture and another one to transmit a culture in a society. By now, we could have instilled and transmitted a culture of knowledge acquisition through the written word in people's mother tongues that enable them to participate in the modern global economy based on their mother tongue. But we haven't done that. If the Japanese could do that in the 1800s, what's stopping us doing it in the 2000s, in the 1990s? Nothing except a lack of dedication to ourselves and a refusal to take ourselves seriously. So, as much as I say, for self-love, be the change you want to see and everything, but if the society is not cooperating to take ourselves seriously, then it becomes very difficult for individuals to function in that society, people who do want to take themselves seriously. And this is where also the divisions, the inequalities become entrenched in society. Because you have people who feel defeated by the elitist leaders, who then withdraw themselves into enclaves where they're going to teach their kids in private schools and give their children the economic advantages of being able to participate in the economy which functions on the English language. And those who are left out because A, there's no culture of knowledge acquisition through the written word, and B, there's no command of the English language. Okay. So I think, it also requires us, as much as we must love ourselves, but we must also understand that we do function in a society. And we need to start taking our leaders to task for not doing their job, for being elitists who sit back and watch the people of this country languish in poverty for the simple fact that they don't have a command of the English language. And because they don't appreciate the need to create a culture of knowledge acquisition through the written word, which means being able to read for meaning. Okay. So, please Let's have this conversation. Like, share, and subscribe, and let me know what you think. Bye bye.